we were proudly studying this in school as Muhammad, the Prophet of Islam, ordered the beheading of the Jews of Banu Qurayza and the women being taken as concubines. As soon as a child had pubic hair, he was beheaded. So the Jewish population was either extradited or beheaded. The story of Rabbi Qanina is a well-known documented story in Islam. Rabbi Qanina was tortured by the order of the Prophet of Islam himself. His eyes were put out. He was burned in order to confess where the Jewish tribes were hiding their goods, their gold and their silver and all those kind of things.
Didn't they realize that if the Prophet did it, then this was the proper way to behave? And so the mujahideen in Iraq, who were beheading people, are simply obeying the example of the Prophet. Now we can see then that since the Prophet Muhammad himself participated in many battles and raids, and did indeed perpetrate these beheadings, he ordered the assassination of several of his political opponents, and he behaved in general like a typical 7th century warlord. The problem is that when this is transferred to 21st century behavior, 21st century contexts of behavior, then what you get are terrorists. So the Prophet Muhammad is revered today in the Islamic world as the primary model of human behavior.
نحن فداء الدين نحن فداء الدين.
You need to understand the traditions of Muhammad. When he wrote letters to Khosroes, the Persian emperor, when he wrote letters to Heraclius, the Byzantine emperor, that said, you have 3 choices. You convert, you subjugate, or we're coming to get you.
When you meet your enemies who are polytheists, which includes Christians, invite them to 3 courses of action. If they respond to any one of these, you also accept it and withhold yourself from doing them any harm. Invite them to accept Islam. If they respond to you, accept it from them and desist from fighting against them. If they refuse to accept Islam, demand from them the jizya. If they agree to pay, accept it from them and hold off your hands. If they refuse to pay the tax, seek Allah's help and fight them. So what does this mean for us? By now you're probably shocked by what has been shown to you, but it's not over yet. Surely our laws will ultimately protect us from such an insidious and anti-democratic doctrine. After all, our forefathers have fought such regimes to keep us safe. Think again. In Islam it is preached there are 2 houses. The house of Islam, which many people believe is submission or inaccurately translated to peace. And then there is the second house. This house is where the majority of UK citizens fall under. Islam calls it the kafir, or unbeliever, but most closely translated from the Quran in Arabic, it is the house of war. So in definition, this applies to all those who do not believe in Allah, the Quran, or that Muhammad was the true prophet, or those who know nothing of it, or those who have outrightly and rejected the faith and oppose Islam. I proudly fall into that category.
And in fact, the whole world is just divided between countries in Dar al-Islam, the house of submission to Islam, and Dar al-Harb, the countries in the house of war. War meaning a jihad to bring them into submission to Islam.
In the Muslim thinking, in the Muslim Sharia, the way the world is depicted is in 2 houses. It's called Dar al-Islam or Dar al-Harb, the house of Islam or the house of war. So the whole world is under these 2 houses.
Sheikh Bakri declared Britain to be Dar al-Harb, which basically means a land of war, a land where...
This has always been Dar al-Harb. This has always been Dar al-Harb. Dar al-Harb is a place where there is non-Islamic law. The whole world today is Dar al-Harb. Dar al-Harb
the point about being a land which is Dar al-Harb is that you and your group therefore feel you have license to conduct violent operations within it.
Fact is that the whole world is Dar al-Harb. There are certain areas where the Muslims are actively liberating their land.
On the 18th of January, did Umar Bakri declare Britain to be Dar al-Harb? If it's always been the case, why did he choose to say it?
Yeah, because you never bothered to listen to him before. But the fact is that Britain changed from being Dar al-Harb to being Darul Fitna. Darul Fitna is a place where the Muslims no longer have sanctity for their life and their wealth. That was the change. Otherwise, Britain has always been Darul Harb.
Die Welt soll islamisiert werden, das wird an vielen Koransuchen gelehrt, das wird von Islamwissenschaftlern und von geistlichen religiösen Führern in der islamischen Welt immer wieder propagiert. Die Welt, die nicht muslimisch ist Haus des Krieges, Dar al-Harb, so wird das genannt. Dort, wo der Islam die offizielle Religion ist Dar al-Islam, das heißt Haus des Islams und damit auch Haus des Friedens. Das heißt, dieses Wissen, die Welt muss islamisiert werden, war schon immer da. Und wer den Islam liebt, und das habe ich getan, als guter Moslem sowieso, wer den Islam liebt, der ist auch bestrebt, das in die Tat umzusetzen. Das heißt, Deutschland, Europa zu islamisieren, um die Anforderungen Mohammeds wirklich bestmöglichst zu erfüllen.
For example, open Bukhari, you will find a hadith that if you find a Jew or a Christian walking down the street, push them to the side. It is well known from what Umar ibn al-Khattab and the Khulafa ar-Rashidin used to implement, that the Jew and Christian was not allowed to ride on a horse when the Muslim is riding on the horse. They will have to walk. Allah, He said in the Quran about the jizya, that fight the people of the book. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, it's in the Quran, fight the people of the book and those who do not believe that what Allah has made lawful as lawful and what Allah has made unlawful as lawful until they pay the jizya and feel themselves subdued. The purpose of the jizya is to make the Jew and the Christian know that they are inferior and subjugated to Islam.
لا يمكن لغير المسلم في ظل الشريعة الإسلامية أن يكون له إلا ما شرعه الله عز وجل من حقوق. شرع الله أن يكون له عقيدته ودينه والتزامه ومأكله وملبسه، والدولة تؤمن الحاجات لكل المواطنين أي لكل الرعية مسلمين وغير مسلمين. أما المسلم فله حقوق أكبر وله احترام لأنه مسلم، والإسلام يعلو ولا يعلى والمسلم يعلو ولا يعلى.
Der Heilige Krieg ist den Moslems auf unterschiedliche Weise angeordnet. Es geht nicht immer nur um Bombenlegen, um Kriege führen, um das Schwert oder die Waffe, sondern es geht auch darum zu taktieren, klug zu sein. Nach welchen friedlichen Mitteln es möglich ist, die soll man natürlich zuerst nutzen. Erst recht dann, wenn man vielleicht militärisch unterlegen ist. Dann soll man eben, wenn man nicht die Vordertür nehmen kann, die Hintertür wählen, um den Islam zu etablieren in der Gesellschaft.
Because when I mentioned about the hadith about pushing them to the side of the road, this is not for this place. Do not do that here. Please, that is not the way to understand the hadith. Okay? This is in the Muslim land where Islam is established, is Dar al-Islam. If you behave like that, they will feel encouraged to become Muslim. Here, if you do that, you will start a fight. And they will think, what is this? No, this is not the way to behave. Here is the opposite. You have to be kind, you have to give good character, you have to give them dawah, and so, inshallah, to befriend them for that purpose.
The process of Islamization is already, of course, very advanced. And we are now entering into a different stage of it.
If we don't act now, our way of life could soon become history. Muslim groups will soon begin to virulently target citizens on the streets, businesses, and anyone who dare oppose their diabolical agenda.
When they speak about Sharia, when they speak about the Dawah, when they speak about the Muslims, when they speak about the Jihad, we should be proud to say that we are from the Ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and whatever you people represent, we will destroy it with our own hands, and we will establish Islam over your noses. This is the truth, my dear Muslims.
The idea in Islam is that Muslims must wage war to establish the hegemony of Islamic law. Not everybody will be forced to become Muslim, but the non-Muslims will be relegated to second-class status. They will not be able to live in the society as equals to the Muslims. And it is the responsibility of Muslims around the world to fight to institute that kind of society.
Yes, even in UK, we need to rise the banner of Islam. We need to start calling for Sharia on the streets of UK.
To jest strefa islamu. Jesteśmy muzułmańskim patrolem. To jest miejsce dla muzułmanów, rozumiesz?
From Makkah to Medina, from UK to Saudi Arabia, we want to establish Islam. We want to see Islam dominant.
O co wam chodzi? Przecież to jest Wielka Brytania. To wcale nie jest Wielka Brytania. Będziemy wam wbijać islam do głowy. Zapamiętaj to sobie.
As soon as Muslims had control of the government, diversity and tolerance went out the window, along with the Jews and Christians.
In 1997, we got our first Muslim MP. In 2001, we had 2 Muslim MPs. In 2005, we had 4 Muslim MPs. Inshallah, in 2009-10, we'll have 8 Muslim MPs. In 2014, we'll have 16 Muslim MPs. At this rate, the whole parliament will be Muslim.
Im Koran steht, der Islam muss über alle anderen Religionen siegen. Er wird siegen. Durch Demokratie. Durch Demokratie, genau.
Choinki nie będzie, bo zdominowana przez muzułmanów Rada Osiedlowa uznała, że drzewko jest za drogie, choć wcześniej ponad 10 razy więcej wydano na obchody islamskiego święta ofiarowania.
Jeżeli Rada zdecydowała, że ma nie być choinki, to tak będzie, ale to dziwne.
Dziwne wcale nie jest, mówi arabista profesor Marek Dziekan. Wszystko odbyło się zgodnie z zasadami demokracji.
Możemy mieć trochę pretensji, ale z drugiej strony przecież tego ich uczymy.
Islamists will demand Sharia law overrule British law, as Muslims will be in the majority.
Erdogan hat es gesagt, die Demokratie ist nur der Zug, auf den wir aufspringen, bis wir am Ziel sind. Die Moscheen sind unsere Kasernen, die Minarette unsere Bajonette, die Kuppeln unsere Helme und die Gläubigen unsere Soldaten. Das hat der türkische Ministerpräsident Erdogan gesagt. Und damit ist alles über die kriegerische Ideologie des Islams gesagt. Sie wollen die demokratischen Freiheiten nutzen, um an die Macht zu kommen. Und dann werden ihre Kasernen gebaut, die Moscheen, die nicht selten Waffenlager sind.
Today we're showing the true face of Islam. Our future in this country is very bright. Thank you very much.
When Muslims establish a majority and achieve political power in an area, they are commanded to begin offensive jihad.
It's a threat for everybody who lives in Brussels, and it's important to know that the capital of Europe, Brussels is the capital of Europe, will be Islamized within 10-20 years.
المسلمين هم اللي بيخلفوا أوروبا ما بتخلفش مما يعني إن خلال 20 سنة هيكون المسلمية غالبية ممكن تكون لها تأثير غير عادي في التحكم في القرار وفي صنع
The big cities in Europe are the first places where we can see what will happen when the majority is Muslim. We see it in the big cities first, Brussels, Amsterdam also, Rotterdam, Antwerp.
I think the best prediction is that Sweden will have a Muslim majority by 2049.
One of the most popular baby names is not Sven, but Mohammed. Pork has been taken off some school menus. Want to learn to drive? Here's Malmö's own Jihad Driving School. And despite Malmö's usually placid appearance, this experiment in multiculturalism has not gone well. This is the Rosengard area of Malmö, a housing project where the radicalization and crime have exploded, and fire and emergency workers will no longer enter without police protection.
På vei for å slukke brann har rystet brannvesenet i Göteborg. Nå kjører de omveier for å unngå fare.
Åtgärderna för oss det är ju då att vi får tänka oss för när vi åker på larm. Vi kan få ändra utryckningsväg, vilken väg vi kör fram till en insats. Beroende på hur det ser ut, vilket område vi är i och så vidare.
Idag har vi klarat oss ifrån de brända bilarna hittills. Det är nästan som man förväntar sig några framåt nattimmarna här när det mörknar nu då. Men idag har det inte varit några än så länge.
Men så kommer meldingen. Nok en påsatt brann på Hisingen i Göteborg.
For 20 minutter siden kom det ungdommer i en bil. De kastet en Molotov-cocktail inn i den bilen her og stakk av. Dette begynner å bli en vanlig foreteelse i Göteborgs forsteder, biler som brenner.